Never a dull moment at the NFL, for sure. The currency of the league is about relevance. It's actually not that hard when you
Okay.
and maybe it's a mental thing that people think, oh my gosh, transformation is hard, big ideas are hard. I don't think it's a hard thing. It's hard to keep it simple. If you keep the intentionality and the focus on what the vision is and what the bold choice is going to be and how to ensure that the execution of that choice is to the best and most excellent way possible, that's how you transform organizations.
I'm thrilled to welcome Marissa Solis, Senior Vice President of Global Brand and Consumer Marketing at the NFL, to the anatomy of a big idea. Over the years, Marissa has redefined what it means to connect with audiences from Pacheco to the NFL's global stage. Marissa has been at the helm of some of the league's most transformative marketing campaigns and global expansion efforts. 20 years ago, when we worked together at Pacheco, Marissa gave me a piece of advice that has shaped my entire career.
Strategy is all about making choices.
It's a testament to her ability to lead with clarity and purpose. Marissa, thank you so much for joining. I feel so honored that you're here with me today. How are you? How are things?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Toria. This is great, and excited to talk about big ideas, small ideas, any idea really that has a broad impact, which is something I'm very passionate about. And we are in our busiest season of the NFL. We just got done with one of the most exciting, partnerships ever with Netflix. We just had our first ever Netflix Christmas games. It broke all records. And we're about to get into the playoff season, which is always exciting. So never a dull moment at the NFL, for sure.
I saw that game. That was an epic game. And everyone's, of course, talking about the halftime performance with Beyonce. And how does a magical moment like that come to life? How does all of those magical pieces come together?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy and it's not linear, right? This is something that a lot of people from a lot of different organizations took place in to bring it to life. And it really goes back to, vision and the purpose of what we're trying to do at the league. The currency of the league is about relevance, right? For us to be, the number one sports league in the world, we need to be relevant. We need to always surprise and delight our fan base. And for a long time, through the leadership of Roger Goodell, we've been looking at ways to, be culturally relevant, be in the conversation, entertain our fan base, expand our schedule, and do things, quite frankly, nobody's ever done before. And, when you look at the media landscape and how fast and how quickly it's been changing, the world of streaming has been on the rise for a while now. That was a vision we've had to make sure that as that world evolved, that the NFL be front and center in that world. So Netflix was not the first. Obviously a couple of years ago, we partnered with Amazon and created Thursday Night Football on a streaming platform. After that came Peacock and some exclusive games out on that platform. And so Netflix was really kind of the next big frontier. And knowing that not only are they one of the biggest streaming platforms, but also leading in entertainment, I think the marriage of live sports and entertainment was just something that was a natural thing in that vision that, Roger Goodell has set for us. So that was the vision. Creating it and making it real took a lot of work. I mean, it's one vision, it's multiple partners, right? It is, of course, Netflix, it is the NFL, it's a cross-functional team, both in Netflix and the NFL. It is then, Beyonce's team. It is our clubs that participated in the two games that we had, so 4 clubs. So it really is a massive orchestration of a lot of people, but really driving towards one simple goal, which was to make sure that those games were successful on Christmas Day.
How do you work with so many different organizations that have their own separate goals and their own separate, focus areas, and get them aligned to kind of this ultimate, centralized goal that makes everyone galvanize together.
Yeah, I mean it's actually not that hard when you
Okay.
yeah, it's really not that hard when you have a compelling vision and everyone's aligned to it. I mean, the vision was we as the league wanted to own the holiday, right? We wanted to make sure that we had live games that people would come watch, that would, highly entertain, and that, we attracted the biggest audience that we could. That vision aligned with Netflix's vision. I mean, they are the world's leading entertainer. It aligned with the league's vision of being relevant, in a holiday that we've been aiming to own for quite a while. It aligned with, our clubs that are aligned with the vision. It aligned with Beyonce, who wanted to, as a leading entertainer, wanted to make sure she took part in this, cultural phenomenon from her hometown. It's not a hard thing when people are aligned to the vision and that ultimate, mission. Then everything that's done from that moment on is in service of that mission.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I mean, but it takes a lot to get to that aligned vision. It takes a lot to make sure that people stay motivated in that vision. And so, I mean, I think your leadership and the cultural phenomenon that is the NFL helps create that compelling vision.
Yeah, I mean, again, once you have a compelling vision, it's really not that difficult, right? You have data that points to several choices. Probably all of those choices are correct in one way, shape, or form, right? How you drive, what choice you make is dependent on, yes, the data, but also, the key stakeholders, how you want to, impact the choice and what you want the outcome to be. So I've always said strategy is about choices, and those choices are informed by data, motivations, all sorts of different things, right? I think it's really about making the choice, boldly committing to that choice, and then making sure that that choice is, executed with excellence and that everybody comes through on that commitment. I think many organizations get caught up in a lot of, distractions and maybe it's a mental thing that people think, oh my gosh, transformation is hard. Big ideas are hard. I don't think they're hard. What's hard is keeping the focus on, the very simple things, right? I don't think it's a hard thing. It's hard to keep it simple. It's hard to not get distracted by, outside voices and different things. I think if you keep the intentionality and the focus on what the vision is and what the bold choice is going to be and how to ensure that the execution of that choice is to the most, to the best and most excellent way possible, then that's how you transform organizations.
That's phenomenal. I love the idea of keeping the simplicity in what can be perceived as complex, right? And I think that part is what gets people overwhelmed, right? This big idea, it feels big, it feels transformative. So then you feel like you have to do all of these extra things to bring it to life. But what you're saying is keep simple things simple.
The complexity always comes in the execution, right?
Right.
Because I will tell you, getting that Netflix game off the ground was not easy. From a technology perspective, there were a lot of challenges to make sure that those games were smooth, right? And that they streamlined smoothly when so many people around the world were watching. There was complexities in ensuring that every single person, was aligned and knew their job. 6 months before all the way up to the day. So there is complexity in the execution. But again, if everybody is aligned to the ultimate goal, and if everybody knows what their job is, then that complexity, becomes simple, and you just kind of orchestrate to the idea.
No, I love that, because then when you have that clarity of the vision, you can filter every decision that you make through, is it going to help us move the needle of what we're ultimately trying to do? That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, definitely.
I love that. What I've heard you say in many conversations is that your charge, your focus is to make the NFL expand its cultural relevance, right? I mean, it's already a cultural phenomenon, but how do you continue to expand on that, make it more inclusive? And it's very evident in strategies and campaigns like Cultura and, Born to Play. In your perspective, what were the core message that you wanted Born to Play to resonate with your audience, and how did it help tell the overall strategy in terms of your global expansion?
To us, it was really a simple story. And again, it goes back to the currency of the league is relevance. We do not sell anything, right? Obviously, yes, the game itself, we are stewards of the game. But unlike a CPG or any other manufacturing company, there is not any widgets that we sell. Our primary business is the game, is entertainment, is bringing the game to life. And so the currency of that business is relevance. The majority of our revenue comes from media rights to air our games. And those companies, whether it be Netflix, whether it be, NBC Universal, CBS, those major networks, they will pay for media rights if it's airing something that people want to see and that is relevant. And so you've got to create things people want to see. And so you have to be very focused on future audiences and the future fan base. What are they going to want to see? What are they going to be like? What are they motivated by? And it was very easy for us to see, as we look at how the world is evolving, the diversity of not just American demographics, but quite frankly, global demographics, young, old, different cultures, different ways to take in information. It was very important that we, told our stories in ways that would resonate with that very broad, wide audience, right? And the only way to do that was to tell stories that hadn't been told before and that people wanted to see. In the case of Born to Play, it really was about, us wanting to expand globally and telling the story of how the game is perceived in a global world, right? The story of, for example, one example is, NFL's Africa camp. I mean, it is no secret that, OC, who's been, Super Bowl champion from Nigeria, he set up these ways to really look and find talent from all over the world. And the NFL actually does go and scout talent from all over the world to play in the league. And so we wanted to tell the story in a very, emotional, very entertaining way of what it would be like if a young African boy dreamt of being in the NFL, and what it would be like for him to be able to have that opportunity and be able to train, like an NFL player, be able to be given the opportunity to play. And at the same time, as we're telling this wonderful story that I think captured a lot of people's heart, because it was just a lovely story of a boy who could have been anywhere in the world, right?
Exactly.
And so telling this beautiful story, but in a way to also drive awareness of the programs that the league has been doing for many years, right? Whether it is the training camps in different countries, whether it is the fact that we have an international player program. So every single NFL team has a place on the roster for an international player. to play. And so I don't know that many people know that. And so it was just a way for us to raise awareness of that without really saying it, right? By
Yeah.
telling a more emotional story that I think people enjoyed, they were able to realize that, hey, everybody around the world has the opportunity to play in the NFL. And the NFL is doing a lot of things to make that dream a reality for many, many young boys and girls, by the way, across the world.
It was so touching, to hear him say it doesn't matter where you were born as long as you were born to play.
Right.
And that is just a timeless truth that, to your point, that anywhere around the world, any kid that dreams of being in the NFL, that are playing those imaginary games,
Yeah.
in the streets, so wherever they live, can resonate with. How do you uncover those truths? How do you uncover those insights? Because it's one thing to be able to say, okay, we have this information, but then to translate it into such a powerful, narrative. How do you help convey that insight into a compelling narrative?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it was I don't know that we translated or created or anything. It really
Okay.
it was a true story. I mean,
Oh, wow.
Umenyiora is a Super Bowl champion from Nigeria. This is what he does. He's been an incredible supporter and creator, of these camps to find talent around the world. He's done so much for the sport in Africa and now all over the world, whether in Europe. And so we didn't make it up. This was just a story that we wanted to tell, because yes, the league is expanding across the world and we want to build a global fan base. The strategy was just about, let's make sure people know and understand the impact that the league is making all over. The story of OC is not very different from the story that we told, right? From Kwaze's story, we learn of many, many different stories of how these things happen all over the world. It was getting with our creative agency and having them take the creative freedom to take all of these narratives that are real narratives and really bring them to life in a beautifully told story, that our creatives wrote. It was finding the right director to bring the story to life. The director was Nigerian, so we knew that we needed to have somebody behind the camera that understood that experience, that that has lived it, that knows what it's like. So I don't think it was particularly complex.
Right.
Or difficult. It really was letting the stories take shape.
I love what you're saying, but I think the part that you always own, Marissa, is your ability to hold on to authenticity and clarity and not let it go, right? And to hold everyone accountable to that clarity and that authenticity. So I hear you say, it's not that difficult. I hear you say it's simple in terms, as long as you stay with the story, but that in of itself can be a challenge for people. And I just respect the fact that what I'm hearing you say is, if you stick to the story, that is your North Star. That is your guiding light. And the job to be done is to hold people accountable to making sure we stick to that authenticity. I think that's where people get distracted, to be completely honest. I also respect the fact that you as a leader have always been very clear on, this is the job to be done. And I'm going to hold you accountable to doing that. And
it is an interesting conversation, because authenticity has become kind of this word everybody uses, this hot word. You can't create authenticity. You can't create it. So I think people get caught up in trying to create something authentic. You can't. You have to just let the stories speak for themselves, right? The reason that spot was so incredibly real and authentic it's because it was put together and created by real people, authentic people. I mean, OC's a real person. He's a hero, right? He's a Super Bowl winner. He's a real person, and he had a lot to do with the spot. He not only participated in that spot, but gave us a lot of, feedback and on how things should be done. The director was Nigerian. He's lived in that world. He knows. Everybody in that spot was a Ghanaian actor. Well, our lead, Kwazi, was from Nigeria too. But that spot was shot in Ghana. I mean, that marketplace is real. Like, we didn't create it. It wasn't a set. It was a real market that we went to. Everything in that spot is real. The dog is real. And so we didn't seek to create it. We sought to tell it by getting all the real people and places and giving them the opportunity to tell their story on camera. And that's how it came to life. And so everything that, from a storytelling perspective, that I strive to do at the league is just to make sure that whatever comes across that's in front of the camera, but also all the people behind the camera. You've been in the industry, creating an ad is not an easy task. It takes countless of people to do it, right? And so whether you are writing the story, casting for the story, shooting the story, helping in, the production of the story, it doesn't matter. You also have a part to play in bringing that story to life in a real way, right? And so we carefully curate all of those things to make sure all the people involved have a real connection to that story, to the story that we're trying to tell. And that's why it's authentic, not because we try to create it to be authentic, because you really couldn't. I think that would be hard. I think it's an oxymoron. You can't create authenticity, right? Because by definition, it wouldn't be real. It wouldn't be real. Yeah.
You said that you want to let the story tell the story. So how did that come to life in the Cultura campaign, right? When you were telling the stories and helping to bring to light, the passion that comes from their background and how they bring that to the game. Like, how do you choose those stories? How do you make sure those stories come to light and they're able to tell their own stories in bringing their truth to the game?
Por la Cultura in particular is about Latino players, right? We wanted to make sure that we elevated stories of Latino players because you really don't see a lot of Latino players, and there's quite a few, quite frankly, in the league, and quite a few that are very successful. We have Super Bowl winners. We have, first round draft picks. Like we have a lot of different NFL players that are of Latino descent. And so really that was the objective, was to ensure that we told the stories of these players because we wanted our Latino fan base to better connect, with the game by connecting with the stories of these players. How we went about doing it was finding those players, right? And I believe today there's, I want to say 56 active players on the roster. How we chose the stories was literally going to these 56 players and getting to know them and, wanting to tell their stories. One of the kind of big ones was, when Christian Gonzalez got drafted, first round pick. And when he went up on stage and opened his suit and he had the Colombian flag and he proudly displayed his heritage, that was a very powerful moment. Wow. We didn't create that. We didn't do that. That just happened. Christian went up there. He was so proud of that moment. His family was so proud of that moment. He just did that. And so all we did was take that moment and amplify it and say, hey, Christian, people want to know more about you. They want to know who you are, what your dreams are, tell us more. And so he was one of the featured players in one of our first Por la Cultura campaigns. So, I think Isiah Pacheco, obviously he plays for the Chiefs. He's a Super Bowl winner. Same thing. It was just, hey, people want to know more about you. They want to know your story. One of the twists in this year's campaign was, let's take these guys back to where they came from and have them go back to their hometowns and tell us how they feel, going back there after being successful in the NFL. So taking Isiah back to San Juan and watching him play ball with his dad, that was all that it was. And it was just literally having him talk to us about how he felt, about representing Puerto Rico and being in the league and being back home. There's no magic formula per se. It truly was, let's take these guys' stories and amplify them and tell them and show them to the world.
You are a curator of true, authentic stories of the people that you serve and the people that you are working with. And I don't know if people truly understand how, you say it's simple, but how powerful that is, right? If you find the right stories, if you find the right insights, you take the step back and let the work do the work, right? Because that's what's going to resonate with people, not your analysis, not your business objectives. I mean, those are critically important, but let the story do the work. And I think that's so compelling. And I don't want to minimize that because I don't know if people truly understand the simplicity, but also the complexity of that. So how do you balance keeping the authenticity of the story to resonate, but also make sure that it balances with the broader goals of growing the NFL's brand?
The broader goal is about relevance.
Right.
In the case of Por la Cultura, the goal was to ensure that the sport, that the league was relevant to our Latino community. And so what better way to make it relevant than, the old adage, if you can see it, you can be it.
Yes.
What better way to be relevant to that community than by showing them that, their own community heroes are part of the sport, are part of the league. I mean, that's it. You show them by showing and amplifying these stories. So there wasn't really a conflict, I guess, between, the business objective, the brand objective. It really was, what is the most powerful way to make the Latino community be seen, and make sure that they felt the sport was relevant to them.
I love how you've been able to just distill the simplicity of the conversation. I think that part is the biggest takeaway, and the fact that, keep simple things simple, keep the focus on the story, keep the focus on bringing the culture heroes, bringing the realities to the life. And there's so many stories, and your job is to be the curator of those stories and just let the authenticity, the real players, the real stories, let that shine. And that's how you build cultural relevance, because people want to connect, right? The thing, how you build cultural relevance and resonance is making sure that people can relate to what they're saying. And people relate to human stories and see themselves in the stories. And I feel like that's exactly what you're doing at the NFL. And that's remarkable. I just want to just ask, as you're thinking about any advice for people who have, big ideas, bold ideas, what advice do you give to that person as they're trying to figure out how to navigate to make that big idea come to life?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is, what is the vision, right? What's the true north? What are we trying to achieve? And then you got to get everybody behind that, right? If you can sell that vision and sell that kind of big objective, and you have people behind you, that's step one. That actually is the hardest step. is to, paint that vision in such a compelling way that people are aligned to it. Once you get that alignment, then it really becomes the choice of how you're going to get to it. You can choose path A, path B, path C. Probably all paths can lead to fulfilling the objective. It really is about which path is best for your organization, for your stakeholders, for the kind of impact that you want to achieve. And the advice is get alignment to your clear vision, pick a path, And once you pick that path, you got to be, 100% committed to that path to make sure you execute it with excellence to get to the goal. 90% of the effort is the upfront, is getting people aligned to the vision. Once you have that and you get their commitment, again, the strategy it could be A, B, or C.
But okay, 90% of it is the upfront. And like, what is that upfront? Like, what does that look like to get people aligned?
You have to articulate the vision and do so in a very simple, compelling way. And then you have to get people convinced that is the right vision.
So what is a compelling vision then? Like, what makes a compelling vision compelling?
It's aligned to your organization's growth goals. It's going to make an impact to your biggest stakeholders. It gets people riled up, wanting to get behind it. So it's both rational because it has to deliver the growth that your organization needs, but it's also emotional. It's got to get people jazzed. If not, they're not going to do it.
How do you help people see the rational and the emotional part of it? Because that's a very complex thing to do.
You leverage the data to build the case for it, right? You remind people of, the main mission of the organization and you tie it back. You leverage what you know of your stakeholders and what they're motivated by and the things that they want to achieve to make sure that vision fulfills all that.
I'm truly just grateful for your time and again for your insights. And I'm thinking about a project I'm working on. I'm going to continue to let the story tell the story. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tora, for having me. This was wonderful.
Thank you.